Hey guys, Coach Goodrich again with another 8th grade American history video. This is going to be part 3 of Unit 4, which is dealing with the formation of our national and federal government. This is about the Constitution, so we're going to break down all of the Constitution right here. So hang on, get your notes out, fill these out as we go. Let's rock and roll. So you guys will watch these videos later on. Boom, Constitutional Convention, 1787. In Philadelphia, George Washington was elected president of the convention. James Madison is known as the father of the Constitution. Article 1 of the 7 articles of the Constitution outlines the legislative branch and its responsibilities. Article 2 does the same thing for the executive branch. Article 3 outlines the judicial branch, the Supreme Court. Article 4 deals with relations among the states, how they interact with one another, like things in trade and commerce. Article 5 outlines amending the Constitution, so all the different changes that have to go into place and how you achieve those. Article 6 outlines the role of the national government, how it's supposed to interact with the states and with each other. Article 7 outlines how the ratification of the Constitution, the process of trying to get at least 9 of the 13 original states to vote on it to pass the document will take place. All 13 would eventually ratify, with the state of Delaware being first, which is why it's known as the first state. There are 27 total amendments or changes to the Constitution. So 27 over the course of about 240 years, almost 250 years, is not bad. That's like one every 8 or 9 years. The first are known as the Bill of Rights. They were put in place by James Madison, and they're all enacted with the passing of the Constitution in 1791 or shortly afterwards. So let's break those down. First Amendment is the Establishment Clause. It gives you the freedom of religion, speech, press, petition, and peaceful assembly. So this guarantees, doesn't matter what religion you have, you can say pretty much whatever you want as long as it's not hateful and malicious towards certain groups. The press can publish whatever they want, and boy do they. Petition, as long as you're gathering peacefully and not destroying property, you have the right to do that. Same thing with assembly. Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. That's a big one today. I think the Second Amendment is really, really important. Third Amendment, no quartering of troops. You get it? Quarter. Quartering is being forced, is the government forcing you to house soldiers against your will. No soldier will ever come up off of base and be like, hey, I need a place to stay for a couple weeks and you have to pay for my food and my lodging and everything. That is a good amendment. Fourth Amendment, no unreasonable search or seizure. Warrants, like search warrants, have to have probable cause. So if you walk up to a car and it smells a little funny, you know what I'm saying, cops that is their probable cause to go search your car or search your locker or search whatever you think. Fifth Amendment outlines several different processes that all deal with the due process of law. Grand jury indictment, no double jeopardy, which is why OJ's up here, no self-incrimination, and the right to eminent domain. So, you do not have to testify against yourself in a court of law. That is a good thing. You cannot be tried for the same crime twice. That is another good thing. Grand jury just means that you have the right to stand before a jury of your peers. The right to eminent domain, it's kind of snuck in there, but it basically means that the government does, within certain legal limits, have the right to seize your property. If, like, for example, if your house is right where they're going to build a highway, they can give you the fair market value for your house and then force you to move. I mean, you're selling it, but yes, the government can technically do that. Sixth Amendment deals specifically with the rights of the accused. You have a right to speedy and public trial. You have a right to an impartial or fair jury of your peers. You have the right to be informed of the crime. You can confront your own witnesses. You have the right to call witnesses, and you have a right to your lawyer. And if you cannot afford one, the state will appoint one for you. Seventh Amendment is the right to trial by jury in civil cases that exceed $20, which is nothing nowadays, but back then was quite a bit of money. Eighth Amendment, no excessive bail or fines, and no cruel or unusual punishment if you're found guilty. And even the death sentence, it's not like you were being drawn and quartered like they did in Great Britain back in the day. And if you get if you get arrested for jaywalking, they can't set your bail to get you out of prison early at like $1 million. That would be excessive. Ninth and 10th Amendments are listed together. All other rights not listed in the Constitution belong to the people. And the 10th Amendment, all other powers not listed in the Constitution belong explicitly or implicitly, to the states. So just because it's not there or not verbally listed does not mean that that right does not apply to you or you do not have that right or power. So those were enacted in 1791. Now, we're moving on. 4 years later, 11th Amendment. People cannot sue states, 1795. So don't get any ideas. 12th Amendment, 1804. You must name the president and the vice president on separate ballots. Back before this, whoever was the second place vote getter would automatically become the vice president. This happened with Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr. And TJ was like, no, we're going to change that because he didn't like Aaron Burr. They were from kind of different spectrums of the political side. Like, I can't imagine like John Adams being a Federalist having Thomas Jefferson as his vice president, which happened. Like, you wouldn't get anything done. They just spend all the time fighting. It would be like having like Barack Obama being president and Donald Trump as his vice president, or vice versa. You wouldn't get anything done. They'd spend all the time fighting. So that's a good amendment. 13th Amendment, 1865. So 60 years later is our next one. The abolition of slavery at the end of the Civil War. The 14th Amendment gets passed during Reconstruction. Defines citizenship, and it's known as the Second Bill of Rights. Basically, it guarantees originally all African American citizens the right to citizenship in the United States, and now that is expanded to include all minorities, not just white people. 15th Amendment is African American male suffrage in 1870. So these three, 13th, 14th, and 15th, are known as the Civil Rights Amendments. The 16th Amendment, boo, in 1913, sets the federal income tax. Boo. 17th Amendment in 1913. Senators are elected by the people for 6-year terms. Governors of individual states will appoint new senators when a vacancy occurs. So if a senator dies in office or a scandal and is removed or resigns for whatever reason, the senator will appoint someone that can be elected. Before this, the senators were chosen by their states respectively, not through the voting process, but picked out, hand-selected. This gives the people a little bit more power to decide. 18th Amendment, as you see from the frowny face, bad idea. 1919, the prohibition of alcohol. I'm not arguing from a moral sense. I am arguing from a practicality standpoint. This is the only amendment that has ever been repealed by another amendment or canceled out. The prohibition of the sale and distribution of alcohol, all that really did, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, was made people like Al Capone down here really, really rich. And gave gang culture a great stronghold, a huge stronghold, I should say, in this country. 19th Amendment. Yay, this is a good one. 1920, women's suffrage. So women have the right to vote. The 20th Amendment in 1933, also known as the Lame Duck Amendment, sets the term commencement beginning dates. So the president now takes office on January the 20th. That's his inauguration. New president is inaugurated on that day. Congress takes over on January 3rd. Used to take office on March 30th. Sometime in March, I believe. Yes, I had it on another slide. So this just basically just moves up the timing window by 2 months of saying like, hey, okay, we have 2 months where we actually do something, as opposed to just waiting for a president to leave office. A lame duck, as you guys know from your vocab, is a president who is just kind of waiting around for his term to run out because they've already elected a new president. 21st Amendment, also 1933. The repeal of the 18th Amendment. State and local prohibition permitted. So you can have dry counties, you can have dry states if you want to. Most states don't follow that. 22nd Amendment, 1951. Limits the president to 2 terms. FDR is the only president to be elected to more than 2 terms. He was elected to 4 consecutive terms. He was so popular for helping to lead the United States out of the Great Depression and almost all the way to victory in World War II. He probably would have been elected for life if he would not have passed away. But 2 terms is probably enough. 8 years in office is a lot. 23rd Amendment, 1961. Citizens of D.C. can vote in presidential elections and have 3 electoral votes in the Electoral College. So 3 little votes that they can contribute to the candidate of their choosing. 1964, the 24th Amendment. No more poll taxes. This was a scheme that was enforced primarily by southern states that made people, especially impoverished people and African Americans, pay a tax in order to vote, which is now illegal. 25th Amendment, 1967, sets the Presidential Order of Succession. So this just sets up the list of, like, the TV show Designated Survivor. If something happens to the president, the vice president takes over, and so on and so forth, and just sets everybody all the way down. A new vice president nominated by the president, who was the old vice president, went vacant, so on and so forth. So if something happens to the president, the vice president takes over. If something happens to the vice president before he can appoint a new vice president, the Speaker of the House takes over, and then the President pro tempore of the Senate, and then the Secretary of State, and then the Secretary of the Treasury. So just in case, worst case scenario, if something happens, this lets us know who's supposed to take over. And Nixon and Spiro Agnew have a huge part to play in that matter for setting that up for us. So, order of succession. After Trump. Now, some of these people are no longer in the offices that they were in. Trump does seem to go through a lot of different people as he's working his way out. So some of the names are messed up, but the order of titles is correct. So after Trump, something were to happen to Trump, Mike Pence, the vice president, will take over. And then Paul Ryan as Speaker of the House. And then Orrin Hatch as President pro tempore of the Senate. And then Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. And then Secretary of Treasury Stephen Mnuchin. And then Secretary of Defense James Mad Dog Mattis. And then the Attorney General. And then the Secretary of Interior. And then Agriculture. And then Commerce. And then Labor. And then Health and Human Services. And Housing and Urban Development. Transportation. Energy. Education. Veterans. And then Homeland Security. Oof, a lot of people. The 26th Amendment in 1971, the voting age is lowered to 18. So when you turn 18, you'll get your little voter registration card and you can vote in all sorts of elections, local and otherwise. And then the last, most recent amendment that has been passed in 1992, the 27th Amendment. Congressmen cannot give themselves a pay raise in the current term, which makes things a lot easier because if they could, they would just spend all that time giving money to themselves. Boom, mini quiz. Your final mini quiz of the unit. Complete this now and then on Google Classroom for your grade as long as with the other ones. And I look forward to talking about this more with you guys in class a little bit later on. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for all your hard work. And we will talk soon.